Hi everyone, we're going to do a flip lesson on the Mayans, the Incas, and the Aztecs. This will be just a quick overview because there are thousands of years of history between these three civilizations, so I'm just going to give you the basic idea of them. To start off, here is a map of all three of them on Mesoamerica and South America. They were not around all at the same time, but here's just a map just to see where they were. This is what is called Mesoamerica. It's Mexico and Central America. This is where the Mayans and Aztecs were. Here on the west coast were the Incas and the west coast of South America. We're going to start off with the Mayas today because they were the first of the civilizations. They began their civilization around 1000 BC. Their civilization went until 900 AD, which is about 2,000 years, which is very significant in world history. No one knows exactly why their civilization came to an end. Of course, there are some theories and conspiracy theorists that think they have the answer, but no one quite knows for sure. This is where the Mayans were located, here in the southern part of Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras, and also the northern part of Nicaragua. There are still some Mayan ancestors that live here, and they still hold true to their culture. the The Mayan civilization was not an empire, and that cannot be stressed enough. There was not one emperor that ruled over the entire civilization. Instead, it was just a collection of city-states. Each of these city-states had their own emperor and their own laws. They were all independent of each other, but they all held the same cultures. Each of these city-states were ruled by their own king, and they all had their own noble classes. Religion was insanely important for the Mayans. They were polytheistic, which means they believed in many gods. This is Itzamna here, and please excuse me if I butcher any of these pronunciations. He was the most important god to the Mayans. He was the god of fire, and he was believed to create the earth. They also believed he gave them their calendar and the writing system. This is Kukulkan. He was a powerful snake god, and his name means the feathered serpent, as you can kind of see there. This is Bolan Sakab. He was also named by Huracan. He was the god of storms, wind, and fire. Finally, this is Chak. Chak was the god of rain and lightning. He had a lightning axe that he used to strike the clouds and produce rain and storms. This is one of the Mayan pyramids. They built these pyramids as a monument to their gods. At the top of the pyramid was a flat area where a temple was built, as you can see here. The priests would get to the top of the pyramids using a staircase built into the sides. They would perform rituals and sacrifices at the top of the temple, and these sacrifices did include human sacrifices. Finally, there were priests in this civilization, and they were very powerful, very important people. Uh, their duties included impersonating the gods, predicting the future, working miracles, building tables of eclipses, averting famines, droughts, plagues, and earthquakes, and ensuring adequate rainfall. The writing and calendar system of the Mayans was very famous. They had a system of hieroglyphics, as you can see here. It's a system of picture writing. Each picture had its own meaning, and you can see a couple of the examples here. They also had a very complicated number system that was base 20, which is different than ours, which is a base 10. They used a system of dots and bars to convey their numbers. Finally, here is a famous Mayan calendar. They had three different types of calendars. One for just a solar 365-day calendar. Another was a shorter religious calendar. Every 52 years, those two calendars would intersect and they would have a day of renewal where they would put out all their fires and throw out their clay utensils as a sign of rebirth. There was also another calendar that became famous in 2012. That was their long count calendar. People thought that that calendar would end and the world would end, um, but that wasn't true, and most Mayan experts think that it didn't mean the world would end, it's just that's when their calendar ended. Here we're going to start with the Aztecs, and this is where the Aztecs were located in the middle of Mexico. The Aztecs went from 1100 AD to 1521. They were also a collection of city-states. However, unlike the Mayans, they were ruled by one emperor. One of these emperors is pictured right here. That's Montezuma. Um, and here is one of his offspring, Montezuma II. When one of these emperors died, they were chosen by a group of nobles. It wasn't always the emperor's son that became the new emperor, but instead usually someone from their family that was chosen as a good leader. The city-states ruled by these emperors were pretty independent as long as they paid their tribute to Tenochtitlan, which was the capital. uh, there was a second command of the Aztec government called the Tziohuacodol, and he was in charge of running the government on a day-to-day basis. He had thousands of officials and civil servants who worked under him and kept the government and empire running smoothly. The Aztec religion was also polytheistic. They believed in many gods. I have three examples here. This is Huitzilpocotl. He was the most fearsome and powerful of the Aztec gods. He was the god of the war, the sun, and sacrifice. This is Tlaloc. He was the god of rain and water. And finally, this is Quetzalcoatl. He was the god of life and wind. The priests were also important in this society. They were responsible for making sure the gods were offered the correct offerings and sacrifices. They were responsible for performing all sorts of ceremonies in the temple to make sure that the gods were not angry with the Aztecs. Human sacrifice is very famous with the Aztecs. Um, they believed that the sun needed the blood of humans in order to rise each day. When the Great Temple was first dedicated in 1487, some historians believe that 20,000 people were killed. And this is how they did it. Finally, this is their capital, Tenochtitlan. It was on an island. In the city center, they had the Great Temple here. Here's the temple to the sun and moon on top of it, where they did most of their sacrifices. This is a wall of skulls that was in the city. They were the sacrificed. And finally, this is why they decided to found their city on an island. It was prophesied that an eagle holding a snake in its beak on top of a cactus would be where they needed to found it. This symbol is also on the Mexican flag. The end of the Aztec Empire happened in 1519 to 1521 by the Spanish conquistadors. They came in looking for gold and just took over the civilization with their superior technology. And also smallpox, which was brought with the Spanish, wiped out a bunch of the Aztecs. On to the Incas. The Incas only lasted about 1 to 200 years in the western part of South America. The government was called the Tawantinsuyu. It represented this pyramid I have on the screen where the king was at the top with the council, nobles, merchants under him. The Sapa Inca was the name of the king. The Sulus was the different states of the Incan Empire. Here are all four of them on a map. The laws in the Incan civilization were very strict. So because of the strictness of these laws, there were actually not a lot of criminals. The strictness of these laws were, for example, if someone was caught stealing, they could just be killed outright just for that. Again, the Incas were also polytheistic. This is Intul. He was the most important of the gods to the Inca. He was the god of the sun. Let's see. Here is their main temple. As you can see, it looks pretty European. It's because when the Spanish came and took them over, they took apart the temple and remade it. However, they did leave a bunch of the temple intact. The Incan believed in the afterlife. Here's one of their tombs. They took great care in embalming and mummifying the bodies of their dead before burial. It was very, very important to them. This is Machu Picchu. Machu Picchu was a city discovered only recently in the 1900s. Uh, they believed it was a resort for one of their kings, just kind of a vacation home almost. Uh, as you can see in the picture of these bricks, the Incans did not use mortar. Instead, they used very close fitting stone. And the way these stones were put together saved Machu Picchu and a lot of their buildings from any kind of earthquakes. Here is a diagram of Machu Picchu when it was, completely still built. And uh, the population of Machu Picchu was only about 1,000 people, so not a lot of people lived there. Then the Inca Empire happened with Francisco Pizarro. He conquered the Inca in 1533. Like Cortez with the Aztec, he was also looking for gold. Here's a picture of him going through the Inca. He had only about 200 soldiers, and he was able to take down about a 10,000 person army. Thank you for watching, and hope you enjoyed it.